Hey there, it's Vacation Pundit telling you that I'm on vacation number 1, and number 2 is The World Ends With You's 15th anniversary and Neo's 1st anniversary, the day I'm recording this, and the day everything will get uploaded. So, basically, since I'm on vacation, I can't really, make a big video like I would usually do, by myself, just talking about, a certain topic. So I figured, hey, why not let other people do the talking, and then we'll figure out the rest from there. And so that's what that video is today. We got a bunch of different TPEWY fans just told their stories with the games. And so yeah, hope you enjoy that. See ya.
Hello, I'm that one Agent Random, and I quite like The World Ends With You. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Like many people, I first heard about the game from Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. I didn't know much about these characters, but I did know that the game they came from had the edgiest title little 10-year-old me had ever heard. 4 years later, Final Remix was announced, and I was mildly interested in it because, hey, I know those guys. I wound up watching the Welcome to Shibuya trailer for the game and hearing the original calling for the first time, and that dang song would not leave my head. It's one of the few times a piece of music has transfixed me like that. I wound up watching that trailer over and over again just to hear like a minute of calling. I wound up looking up the song into YouTube to hear the full thing and started reading through the video's comments. And I just felt the passion of the community radiate out of those comments. Seeing all those people write like mission mail ordering you to make calling your ringtone was so cool to me. I started to pay more and more attention to the game's trailer and thought, you know, this game looks pretty good actually. So I asked for it for Christmas, and bam, I played the game. And if you're watching this video, you already know, the game's amazing. I was 15 at the time, the same age as Neku in the game, and I felt myself relating with him more than I had with any other character prior. It caused me to look at the world around me in a whole new way, and the rest of the cast was amazing too. I just couldn't get enough of this world and wanted to see more of what it and its community had to offer. Keep in mind though that I had beat the game in 2019, and that had to be one of the deader years for the World Ends With You community. A lot of the older fans had become burnt out, and we hadn't had the influx of new fans from the anime and Neo yet. You were lucky if the subreddit got 3 posts a week. The wiki just had no info on pretty much anything Final Remix, and there were like maybe 3 good World Ends With You videos on YouTube that were even sort of recent. I kept thinking to myself, when were they going to make this stuff happen? Update the wiki even a little bit, make World Ends With You videos, the works. And eventually it got to the point where I decided to become that, one of the people who makes these things happen for the community. And that's why I'm here today, where there are thankfully a lot more people actively making content for this game, so it doesn't feel so lonely anymore. The World Ends With You community has given me a wonderful home, and I'm happy to give back to it in every way that I can. Because if I don't, then who else is gonna tell you all that Fred is Hanakoma?
Hello, YouTube! I have not seen you in a while. It's me, Amadeus, host of the This Podcast Ends With You podcast. I really should have thought of a shorter name for this podcast. But regardless, thank you very much for the one pundit for letting me join this video and talk about how I got into TPEWY and why I got stuck with it and love it so much. But also, he gave me no time limit, so welcome to my now 30-minute TED Talk about why I love The World Ends With You. Nah, but for real though, this anniversary is a big deal, and I'd love to talk to you about how I found out about TPEWY, which actually was through YouTube and through YouTube videos. I was scrolling through YouTube one day, and I just saw this art with this guy with headphones and grill and noise and headphones, and it just seemed kind of cool, and I saw DS gameplay, and I was like, huh, that looks kind of Galaxy Brain. That kind of looks like something that will entertain my 5,000 IQ teenage brain. So I tried it out. And I guess the main thing that really hooked me more than anything was the story. Like, the gameplay was pretty good, but the point that really caught me in the story was day 3. You know which day it is. You know when the big thing happens. That day is what really hooked me on the entire series. It was just such a strong moment, and it just held me so captive, wondering what's next. The way the story cut off every day, and the mystery and intrigue of it all, and how the story was told, and the connections, and the growth of Neku and Shoumen Amimoto. It all just really got to me and filled my little heart with joy. And that's kind of how I started becoming a fan. I only then was a fan by myself for like most of my life. I just mainly enjoyed it by myself and watched a couple of videos on it. And then suddenly Neo came out, and I had the amazing idea of creating the world's greatest podcast ever in life. Eat your heart out, Joe Rogan. And that's kind of when I discovered a brand new side to TPEWY, which is its loving and incredible and creative community. Not just my incredible team of Neku, Mai, and our artist, Floral, but also all the other people in the community that, God, it would take me all day to list, and I would definitely forget a few of them. Everything from artists to fanfic writers to voice actors who have gone really involved in the community. That's just a whole other side of the community that I've come to enjoy and appreciate and respect. To this day, some of the fan art and some of the comments that I see on the podcast is just light up my little heart, and I keep them saved, and really makes doing all of this worthwhile, and really makes connecting to the community one of my favorite things that I've done over the years. Also, dunking on Joshua. Just dunking on Joshua in general is like my favorite thing to do. It's basically the main reason why Mai's on the podcast. I just need somebody to dunk on regarding Joshua. But with that excellent revelation, that is why I love The World Ends With You. Happy anniversary, Near The World Ends With You. Happy anniversary, The World Ends With You community. Happy anniversary, One Pundit. Thank you much for having me on this video. And show Minamoto for life. Peace.
Okay, the way that I was originally introduced to The World Ends With You as a franchise is a little unusual. I had a good friend that, really I considered them family at this point, and they knew of some of my mathematical fascination and some of my other fascination. And, well, one weekend in 2011, we had a lost weekend together. And at one point during the lost weekend, the discussion turned to video games. And they noted that there was this particular video game that they'd been introduced to by a friend of theirs, The World Ends With You, that they had really come to love. That this was really a great video game. I needed to pick it up. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, if I can... When did it come out? Oh, 2007. Okay, well, if I find it at a used place, and they're like, no, seriously, you need to try and find this. Because there's this particular character, Minamoto, that really reminds us of you. And so I'm a little intrigued. And I'm like, okay, I'll definitely look for this next time I look in a game store or something. And I found it in the back of my head. And 8 months later, I'm going to my usual game store, which sadly no longer exists. And this particular game store is a lot as if Wild Boar had a skate shop / retro gaming store that also happened to sell new games and new systems along with stuff all the way back to the original 8-bit Nintendo systems. So we were looking around, and I see that they have a copy, new in box, unopened, of The World Ends With You. And so I pick it up. The guy who I'm having check me out is, you know, if I know this was here, I would have bought this. Well, sorry, I beat you to it. And he's like, yeah, I'd heard this was such a good game, and this game just really hit people in the souls, and I think you'll really like this. So I paid him my $30, and I hope that the guy eventually was able to get him a copy, or at least pick up Final Remix when it came out. And that's pretty much. And it's interesting when I picked it up because I was kind of at a point in my life where I was really trying to figure out what I really wanted to do with my life. I was at a crossroads. I was kind of at a standstill at my career and a lot of other things. And playing through that game hit me in a lot of different areas, as far as just hitting some things that I was going through at that time in my life and speaking to me in specific ways, including probably some ways that are not stuff you normally hear, like, oh my god, this is talking about the many worlds model of physics accurately, or things like that. But, so, really and truly, that's when I fell in love with the series at that point. And I wasn't hugely involved in the fandom at that point, but I got more involved, at least passively, as far as like following Reddit forums and such when Final Remix came out. And I started really writing actively right around July 2020. And because I'd realized, lots of people are writing. Because I was always nervous about writing fanfic. I was like, what if people hate me? What if people hate this? What if they're going to think that I am bad and should feel bad? And I realized, a lot of people, including a lot of people, it turned out, who I read a lot of their work on AO3, as I would find out. I was like, a lot of people actually do this every day. And honestly, you should be writing this for you and what makes you happy, and pretty much screw everyone else. You've got to, and if they like it, they'll let you know. If they don't, well, there's nothing you can do about that. So that's when I started posting stuff like the Mandelbrot fic. And I was originally planning on doing like 1 or 2 fanfics, and it kind of grew from there, and then it grew into not just fan fiction, but essays from hell. And now I've met a lot of good people in this fandom, and I'm glad, and I will always be grateful for my one friend back in 2011 who was like, you really need to pick this game up because there's a guy in it that's just like you for real. So that's pretty much how I got into it, and more importantly, how I got into the broader fandom. Thank you all so much. Peace out.
I first started getting into TPEWY with the original DS version, back when I was still in middle school. I always have had an eye for off-the-wall fashion styles and unique art styles, so getting to see it in games like these, with both the original and with Neo, really sat with me, and I think kind of formed a lot of the more unique stuff that I have adapted in my later life. I've drawn since I could hold a pen, and I've always really liked that sharp, very unique sense of style that Kobayashi uses in both of the games. Being where I am now and getting to work with some of the really, really cool people that I've gotten to work with on this really, really cool passion project, funny enough, all stemmed from a game that I couldn't finish back when I was a little middle school me. So it's been wonderful to see how it's stemmed into this great thing. And definitely not to say that the characters, the setting, obviously, of course, the story isn't wonderful in its own way, but those two things in particular were what really drew me into the game and what kept me in the fandom for all of those 14 plus years.
My first exposure to The World Ends With You was from the Nintendo Direct where Final Remix was announced. And I, at the time, didn't really think that much of it because there was a lot of announcements in that Direct. It was the Nintendo Direct. But I remember after the Direct, then the launch trailer. I saw the launch trailer one morning before school on my Nintendo Switch on the little news app. And I remember watching the launch trailer, just thinking, wait, this game looks really cool. Like, really cool. And so I kind of obsessed about it for a few days and managed to download a ROM of it onto my CFW 2DS, and I just played it so much. And just the thing I love about TPEWY is just how amazing it is, just in all aspects. Like the gameplay, amazing. The story, amazing. The characters, phenomenal. The message literally changed my life. Like, I wouldn't be the person I am today if it wasn't for The World Ends With You, and I genuinely believe that. Just everything about it is phenomenal, and it is without a doubt my favorite game series of all time. And it's crazy that it's already 15 years old. Like, that's almost as old as me.
Hey yo, I'm Kazer and I make dumb memes with The World Ends With You sometimes. The first time I ever experienced the series was when I was like 8, so that's around 11 years ago. I was playing every DS game that my brother had because he had a whole bunch of them, and eventually got to The World Ends With You. I really liked the game, but unfortunately I was a pretty stupid kid, so I got stuck on week 1 day 3 of the bad boss and I gave up. Also, for some reason I thought Beat had a crush on Shiki or something. But yeah, 5 years or so later, I was checking a best games on DS list and I saw The World Ends With You, and I ended up picking the game back up and I binged it in under a week. It became one of my favorite franchises, but as you know, there wasn't really anything going on, so I only really remembered it fondly, never really participating in the community. But when the anime was announced, it created brain rot that persists even to this day.
I found out about The World Ends With You around the time it was first announced. I was obsessed with Kingdom Hearts and I read online that a new DS game was being made by people from the KH team, which grabbed my attention immediately. Much like every fan of the game, I completely fell in love with the characters, the aesthetic, the music and even the gameplay. My poor little DS touchscreen has never been the same ever since.
I found The World Ends With You through Kingdom Hearts, and I'm sure a lot of people can say that as well. However, those of you that know Kingdom Hearts would probably figure that my playthrough of the game would be spoiled by Dream Drop Distance, and thank God I'm a bit of a dum-dum because I did not connect the dots on certain things. I was just thinking, hey, that Joshua guy seems pretty nice, he's cool, he might be a Reaper, but he's cool. Which of course quickly turned around and slapped me in the face in week 2. But regardless, when I think of how I got into this game, I remember I almost resorted to a summary video because I just wanted to get in, get the knowledge I need for Kingdom Hearts, and move on. But I decided I didn't want to make that same mistake that I did for Kingdom Hearts. In case you know, the game was fantastic, and I'm just so glad I made that call because this game left me shocked, speechless, and just immediately in love with it. And of course in need of answers. The World Ends With You was the first game to not only take me on a roller coaster of emotions, but also of relatability, self-reflection, and self-actualization. And after, finding the answers, I looked back at the characters and saw a little bit of myself in each of them. Shiki's insecurity, Neku's self-isolation, and, well, bad people skills, Beat's struggle with expectations, and of course Joshua's depression and loneliness. And I thought maybe I should just try expanding my borders like the game is telling me to do, and maybe, just maybe, I'll also be happy. And I am. Happy 15th anniversary of The World Ends With You, and you're finally seeing Mage's Neku, our favorite emo carrot son. Thank you, Square Enix, and everyone in this amazing community.
Hey guys, it's Olavids, and so The World Ends With You, I got into that, honestly, more recently. However, I first discovered the series a couple of years ago, back when I first played Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance. You might hear this a lot, but yeah, those characters actually appeared in that game as a kind of a crossover kind of thing. I most likely looked them up on a wiki or something, and that's when I saw, okay, they're from this other game called The World Ends With You. And I remember somewhere down the line on a whim, I was like, okay, what is this game about? And I looked it up, I watched maybe the first cutscenes. That's usually what I do when I'm looking at a new series I've never seen. I look at maybe a little bit at the beginning. That first monologue with Neku was like, okay, this guy is different here, I already knew, he was a bit moody in Kingdom Hearts, but when I saw that game, the real game, I'm like, okay, Neku's pretty different from the typical pro tag. I mean, that has his moment too, but he was different. He's more of a young guy. He's not like an adult. He's young like Xora, and that caught me. The shut up, stop talking, just go the hell away. All the world needs is me. Honestly, I think it's such a great opening. And then later on down the line in high school, I tried out through certain special means, the DS version, and I actually liked what I played so far. I played 1 week, and a little bit into the week 2, and I was hooked by the time that first week ended. I mean, the whole part with the reason why Shiki was taken as an entry fee, I mean, I was super invested by that point. I'm like, alright, I have to. But I didn't end up finishing it at the time. Later on after high school, I was looking for something to stream, and honestly, none of my JRPG streams ever really did good. Like, they never really went well, because, like, I don't know, I always thought for a bit, like, okay, maybe no one really wants to see me play RPGs. Those are my favorite thing ever, but, no one really shows up or stays for long. Until it's a couple months before Neo The World Ends With You comes out. And, shoutouts to Oni and Matt. They're like, bro, you should probably play that one. I did like most likely did like a poll, like, hey, which one should I play? They're like, bro, you should play The World Ends With You. Like, the new game's about to come out. It's a really good game. Like Square Enix. So I'm like, I guess now's as good a time as any to actually play it, and I'm gonna stick with it this time. I won't like stop midway. And going through it was honestly one of the most fun experiences I had with the game, because like there's so much to talk about in the game, and that was really the first game series where it's like I felt like I was able to actually complete it on stream because we had such a fun time talking about everything that's going on. And I just want to say that yeah, that was when I really got the game. I really was like, okay, this is actually like amazing. And from how the different characters, well, in the first game, none of them really related much to me. I think that there's definitely a lot of people who are like them, and they're realistic enough where I can still understand them, even though they're not literally me or anything. They're not just like me. And like, they had very realistic problems they have to solve. Not only that, not just the characters, they're amazing. Story's great, great twists, great, all that stuff, cool. But even Shibuya itself, the location. I mean, I've never lived there, but I feel like that's kind of my neighborhood too, like with how this game introduces you to this city that is in real life and all that. It's real, and you learn the streets, you learn the backstory and things like Hachiko and all that. It's like it's your neighborhood, even though you've never really been there. And I mean, it probably hits home a lot more to Japan, but I've never been there, but it feels like I know it, and I think that aspect is really great. It makes you love Shibuya even though you've never been there. I mean, you can do that. I mean, I think you did something really good there. Yeah, and so then of course played it, beat it a couple months before Neo. Then I played Neo, loved Neo, I got it at launch and all that. It's great. I even went and watched the anime. I mean, yeah, I've only really been a fan for like a year, a little bit over a year, and it's also one of my favorite series ever. And 15 years, I mean, it's been around for a while, and I honestly hope that there's still more to come in the future. But even if there isn't, it's a great legacy that Square left behind. And yeah, it's amazing. I hope more people get into it. Happy 15th anniversary of The World Ends With You.
Hey there, I'm OzmaNeku, one of the co-hosts of This Podcast Ends With You, and I discovered and got into TPEWY from, I don't know if it was Game Informer or Nintendo Power, it was something like that. I remember seeing Neku in the picture and seeing him with his glowing hand of power and going, that looks really cool. I was a teenager at the time, very superficial. I wanted things to look good. Once I actually picked up the game on the day one release, I played the game and I beat it in a couple of days. I was up all night just playing this game, watching the journey and experiencing everything for myself and seeing how Neku grew and remembering that as a young person, I needed to grow in the same way. I needed to learn life lessons and figure out who I wanted to be. I took the name Neku as my nickname because of how much the game influenced me and made me feel like I could challenge the world and actually do something and grow and be a better person. All of my friends that I currently have are either really into TPEWY or they understand why I'm so into it, and it will always be a very fun memory for me to go, hey, this game that looked really, really cool has put me in one of, if not one of the best positions in my life I've ever had, with friends surrounding me and opportunities to make more. So thank you, The World Ends With You, and thank you everyone at Square Enix for making such a great game.
So, I first discovered The World Ends With You through Kingdom Hearts 3D, which had a couple of the characters in it, and I was like, whoa, these characters are pretty cool. You know what game were they from? So I checked the wiki page, heard about TPEWY, checked out a few videos and such, and finally decided, you know what, I'ma play this game. But all my local GameStops and game stores didn't have any copies, but luckily, my friend was selling a lot of their DS games, and that was one of them. I played through it and really enjoyed it, but put the game down and didn't play it again until recently, when I found the game while organizing my closet. I have a special place in my heart for this great game, and I highly recommend it for those of you who have not played it yet.
So, I got into TPEWY in around December of last year. I've been wanting to get into TPEWY for a few years now. I just haven't really gotten around to it. I forgot about the series for a while, and then I found news on Neo TPEWY. Oh! That sounds familiar! Oh! So, I know I shouldn't have done this, but I pirated the original TPEWY because I have a hacked DS, and I could. And I didn't pirate Neo TPEWY, I got that one legitimately. So, yeah, I do want to buy the original TPEWY one day. I just don't have the money. I stayed in the fandom because the fandom is just amazing. TPEWY fans are great. I love TPEWY fans. Yeah, I love TPEWY fans. The community is just so supportive and friendly and nice. I love it. I love you guys. I'd make you all cookies if I could.
Hello, I'm Stealthy from my own channel, and today I'm gonna Pundit asked me to tell you how I got into the Word Review. Basically, at the time I was getting into Kingdom Hearts, thanks to an Italian YouTuber called Lua, and I didn't actually play any of the mainline games or any of the games that got out on PlayStation, but I did play Union Cross, and on Union Cross when they pulled a medal that was promoting the Word Review, and attached with the medal came the song Twister, Union Cross Mix. So I heard the song when I clicked on the medal, and I said, wow, this sucks ass. And then I put the medal away and never thought about it again, except I didn't, because for some reason the song kept popping up in memory and I wanted to hear it again, and every time I would say, well, this sucks. So eventually I just looked into the game, liked the visuals, and got the game. Really enjoyed the story, characters, music, combat obviously, and then yeah. At the time I thought Will JV2 and Blitzkid were the coolest fucking people on the planet when they were making Kingdom Hearts No Damage videos, so I thought, why not try and do something similar but for a game that it hasn't been done for yet. I didn't want to just be another Kingdom Hearts No Damage YouTuber, so I started recording for the Word Review videos, and that's how I got into the game and how I started recording and uploading videos on the internet. And I still fucking hate Twister, don't worry.
I came across TPEWY as a young lad at the age of 14, almost the same age as Neku around that time. I was a big fan of Kingdom Hearts at the time and was pretty damn excited to be playing the next installment in the form of DDD. So I saved up as much money as I can to buy a copy of the game and was there for launch day to pick it up. All was going well and good in typical KH fashion until I came across Neku in Traverse Town and heard Twister Kingdom Mix for the first time. As a pretty big Jet Set Radio fan, I was instantly blown away by the track, and the design of Neku and his pals had me curious for more. I had no clue on what game they even came from, so I took to the web for answers, and lo behold, I found out what game they were from, The World Ends With You. I looked up vids of the gameplay online and I was immediately hooked. It was nothing like I had ever seen before, and the art direction and music blew me away. I just knew that I had to get this game. Around this time, the game shot up in price due to the attention it has gotten from DDD, so I found myself saving up money yet again, and after a few weeks, I was finally able to grab a copy. Once I had it in my hand and started the game, I was in the zone. The story, the music, the combat, the customization, the quality of life, it all clicked together so well. I ended up pouring more time into TPEWY than I did into DDD, funnily enough. After I finished it was now firmly one of my favorite games, and I immediately took to the web to find more fan content for it, and it would persist like that for a few years while I would hopelessly pray for a sequel, and also having my hopes dashed by the mobile countdown just like my fellow TPEWY fans. Soon, the Switch port came and went a few years later, and I wasn't sure if we were ever gonna get a new game until the announcement of the anime, and then, another countdown. I thought to myself, could this be it? Have my prayers finally been answered? I didn't want to believe it due to fears of getting burned yet again, but then, it actually happened. Neo was announced and I lost my absolute mind. And after having played the game, I can safely say that it was worth it.
I'm a die-hard, forever Kingdom Hearts fan, and it was a natural transition as a streamer and musician to pick up The World Ends With You. I had no expectations or previous knowledge, but from the very first scene with Neku's monologue, I was charmed. Here was a character who was so warm of heart that he put up walls to protect that heart clear as day. Several people watched me play through the first game, which was surprising and special, and I saw that everyone who enjoyed TPEWY saw themselves in a character. The script is just that relatable and relevant to the universal human condition. Neo rolled around, and I became friends with the voice actors who showed me even more amazing perspectives to the world of Shibuya's UG. Safe to say, I will always be making music and content about or inspired by TPEWY.
I first found out about The World Ends With You when I was recommended a video of someone playing Final Remix. From the thumbnail I thought the game looked pretty cool, but I decided not to watch it. Then last November I heard that Final Remix is free for a week and decided, hey, why not? And I went in totally blind. Within my first hour or so of playing, I fell in love with the art style, the music, the characters, pretty much everything. When I found out Neo existed, I was delighted. I couldn't wait to play. I wanted to know all I could about the new characters while still trying to avoid spoilers, and I wanted to see how the characters from the first game grew after the 3-year gap in between the games. The games really left a positive impact on me since I'd recently started my freshman year of high school, and I really needed that push from these games to help me break out of my shell and enjoy talking to people just a little bit more than I did before. So if anyone worked on these games ever hears this, I want to thank you for working on the game that really changed my life for the better.
It has inspired me to make my own storyline, and the community is so positive. It has helped my creativity flow and create something many others could enjoy too.
Yo, it's your boy Zetta Slow. Happy 15th anniversary TPEWY fandom, and happy first birthday to Neo TPEWY. Being in the fandom for this past year has been a great time. So, we've had Neo TPEWY drop, we had the anime drop, we have it in English and Japanese dub. So, I'm so happy for how far we've come in the last decade. So I've been told to talk about my experience with TPEWY. I started back in 8th grade. I was 14 at the time, so I was in the period of life where I really didn't want to deal with people, right? I was just kind of tired of people. I always stayed in my room. I was always, doing things to not really interact with people. Coming that Christmas, my mom had bought me a couple games out of GameStop's bargain bin, and TPEWY had been one of them. So initially, I was not really trying to play TPEWY. I was trying to play Sonic, the Sonic DS game. But then I get grounded. I literally have no TV, none of that, right? But my parents forgot to take my DS. So with the time I had left to play my DS, I was like, you know what? I might as well open up this game that my mom bought me. And that game was The World Ends With You. And boy, was I in for a ride. So as you guys know, the story takes part with Neku. Neku's very antisocial, like I am at this point in life, right? But as the story progresses, he learns a lot more about perspective of others and how much more there is to life than just you, right? Because the world ends with you. So as someone who was very young and impressionable at this time, this game had a very profound impact on how I view the world, right? I may not agree with everything that everybody says, but I'm at least willing to hear them out now, Everybody has their values, I have mine, but at some point we have to have an understanding, and I feel like that's where Neku came to by the end of the game. He accepted everybody for who they were, he became a lot more outgoing because of it, and he was able to, save the day. flash forward to now, right? So your boy Zetta literally just wanted to start a YouTube channel. This time had nothing to actually go on. Like, so if you look back a while ago, I was doing a lot of different other types of videos, but then they announced that TPEWY was getting a sequel. So I had to do something for that. So, you know, I've been covering all the TPEWY things up until that point. We were covering every single development with TPEWY, the anime, and Neo TPEWY, the game. And honestly, I could not be happier as a part of the fandom. Like, Neku is over here just chilling right now. We have made a resurgence. Like, I love it. I'm starting to see a lot of like Kingdom Hearts people go like, oh, yo, I'm mad I missed this series. I know it was in Dream Drop distance, but now we're all a part of this. Just the fact they brought it back right now is just in time. I can't wait to see what TPEWY will do next with the World Ends With You series. But anyway, everybody, stay healthy, stay happy, stay groovy. This has been your boy Zetta. Peace.
Hey look, it's me, Pundit, and I'm gonna tell you my World Ends With You story. I think my story is actually pretty funny just because where I start and where I end up. So, I first really found out about the World Ends With You in a Nintendo Direct Mini when they showed off Final Remix. And I was like, wow, this game looks kind of familiar because I had watched lots of YouTube videos and people would mention it and be like, oh yeah, that game. But I thought, wow, it looks familiar and kind of cool. And then I just basically immediately forgot about it because at the time I didn't have money, and so I couldn't really buy it. And so then I just kind of moved on with my life and until Christmas came around. And for Christmas, I really wanted Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, but I needed to make a Christmas list, so you can't just have Pokemon Let's Go Eevee on the list. So I added a few filler games, and one of them was the World Ends With You Final Remix, because I had watched like old directs to get some ideas, and that was one of the games that stuck out to me. So Christmas comes around and I get 2 games. One of them is the World Ends With You Final Remix, and the other one is my beloved Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, the game of the year, baby. But yeah, so I was just kind of underwhelmed with the World Ends With You at first, just because I got what I wanted, and then I got the World Ends With You. So, because I was too busy playing Pokemon Let's Go Eevee, I didn't actually start playing the World Ends With You until like a month later. And so, by the time I did start it, I was like, wow, this game is actually kinda good. In fact, it's really good. The controls may be weird, but I like them. So I just started playing, and eventually I just fell in love with the game. The characters are really good. Neku starts off as this total piece of shit, but he ends up becoming something, like, better. He's just amazing, and I love him so much. And so, yeah, it was one of those changing points in my life, and the World Ends With You is a game that will stick with you. And you can tell that because I'm making YouTube videos about the World Ends With You. So, yeah, I just think my story is kind of funny because I start off just not caring about it at all, and then going into where I am now. But yeah, that's my story. Hope you have a wonderful day. Happy anniversary, World Ends With You.
Second game, you're sticking me in more game again. Colgate, Corvus, face, got a hot cake, master, history, north with the western. Take it up, step aside the center with a back at the back, music to learn. The saga, got a hot cake, I like, show me your best, I crystal, twist your head, so second game, you're sticking me in more game again. Colgate, Corvus, face, got a hot cake, master, history, north with the western. Take it up, step aside the center with a back at the back, music to learn. Back at the back, music to learn. Morning rays, years and cranes, turn to the west, the west, the west. Be honest, there wasn't a dream. Bell society, unity, cornet and spinning it and sound flows, flow through your home, trapped by the power of the dream. The power is yet unknown.